Hey guys, I'm Kevin. In today's video, we're going to talk about the CAGED system. So the CAGED system is actually just an acronym that stands for the different shapes that we can use to play the same chord. So this is a concept that really comes from the guitar world, but I thought it'd be a cool idea to kind of apply this to the uke because it does in fact work. So what is the CAGED system? What does it stand for? So CAGED stands for C, which is the C shape, A, the A shape, G is the G shape, E and D are both shapes that you can use to play the same chord. So now we're going to take a look at this concept using one chord, and I'm going to show you using the CAGED system how you can play it up and down the neck. So to kick things off, we're going to start with a C chord, and it's actually perfect because the C is the first letter of the CAGED system. So we have our C chord here in the C shape. Now the concept of the CAGED system actually means that I can play a C chord in 5 different positions. The C shape, the A shape, the G shape, the E shape, and the D shape. Now I will say, before we get into this, I'm using a uke with a longer neck so that I can play higher up here. So if you have a soprano, you might not actually be able to play all 5 of the shapes just because you won't have enough real estate. But on a longer necked instrument or on a baritone or a guitar, you can absolutely do this. So we have our C chord here in a C shape. Now we want to play the C chord with an A shape. So where do we start to get there? Well, we start here with our basic A chord. And again, we're going to treat this as a shape. So in this position here, this is an A chord because A is the root, and that's the open A note. So if we want to make this into a C chord, we need to move this shape. Now I do have a video completely on movable shapes that you might want to review. I'll leave a link in the description, but for here, we'll just talk about this A shape moving. So if we move this A chord, we are going to be moving the root, and the root is on the A string here, open. So when we move this chord up 1 fret, the root is now B flat, and the chord is B flat. If we move again, it's B, and if we move again, it becomes C. So this is a C chord using the A shaped. So now we have the C and the A of the CAGED system. We have our C in a C shape. We have our C in an A shape. Now the next letter of the CAGED system is G. Again, our process here is we start with our root position chord and we play a G chord. So G is typically played here, but I'm going to play it as a bar chord because I'm going to be moving up the neck here, so I want to cover all of the strings when I do this. So my G chord, typically played here, I'll play the same thing using this, and we will call this our G shape. So this is 4th fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 2nd fret. So this is a G chord, and our root in this chord is right here on the E string of the 3rd fret. That's our G note. So as that note moves, so does the chord. So G is quite a little bit of a distance from C, so we're actually going to have to move a bit more down the neck here. So let's do the same thing we did with the A shape. Our G shape goes up by a 1/2 step, becomes G sharp, becomes A, becomes B flat, B, and then it becomes C. So the C chord using the G shape is played up here. So now we have C, C using the A shape, and C using the G shape. Now, if you have a soprano uke or a concert and you don't have enough room to go any further than this, that's fine. You can just use the C, A, and G shape for this chord, and it gives you a lot of variables here when you're playing to not only move this chord around, but actually, if you're playing bar chords, to know that you have access to chords in closer proximity to the other chords you're playing. Okay, so now we've gotten through the G shape. Let's move on to the E shape. So our E chord is played here, 4, 4, 4, 2. And and our root is on the C string. So we have C, D, E. So there is our E note. So now we have even further distance to go here. We're going to have to keep moving up the neck even farther, but let's just go step by step with this E chord. So we have E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. So another C chord right up here is 12, 12, 12, 10. And you can hear how this differs in sound, obviously because of the register, but also because of where the root is on the string. So we have a C chord here in our E shape. We have it here in our G shape, our A shape, and our C shape. So if you go no further than that, you're in a great place because most every uke has 12 frets, so you can actually play the C chord in 4 positions. The final one, the D chord shape. Now this one is kind of versatile because it's the same chord shape really as the E chord. So we're sort of doing the same thing here, but we're starting here from our D chord. But I'm going to play our D chord again as a bar chord in this shape, which very much looks like the C shape. So again, there's a little crossover here with the D shape, but I'll show you just to show you. So we start here with our D chord. Our root is on the C string of the 2nd fret, and I'm just going to keep moving here. D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and then all the way up here, 12, 12, 12, 15. So even on a long neck tenor, this is a hard one to play. So again, playing all of these chords on a uke neck is a little more challenging, but I really wanted to show you that at least with 3 or 4 of these shapes, you can do this concept. So now that we've done this with a C shape, you can also do this with any other chord. It doesn't matter if it's major or minor, it can go through this same procedure. So what if our first chord is A? Well, all that means now is that in the CAGED system, instead of using C as our starting point, we use A. And the really important concept here to grasp is we use that same order of shapes. I repeat, the same order of shapes, A, G, E, D, and then back to C. So if we play our A chord here in first position, that's our A chord using an A shape. Now, if we want to use this A chord in the next position, which would be the G shape, we have to start with our G chord and move. So we have A here. Now let's go back to our G shape. And we're going to turn this G into an A by moving it up a whole step. G, G sharp, A. So if you're playing a song and you're playing your A chord, look to that next A shape, or that next A chord rather, using a different shape. Now, you have a little different register option here to do the same thing. And from there, we have our E shape. So we go back, start here with our E chord, and we're going to move that up till it becomes an A. So E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. So this is cool. You have A chord here, A chord here, A chord here. So again, the D shape, you can go further with this, but the main concept here to grasp is we can use the same chord using different shapes to play the chord in different places across the neck. It gives you different registers. It gives you the option to play these chords in songs, not always using the same first position. And it really is going to help you to understand more about the neck and the notes that you're playing within the chords. So is the CAGED system useful for uke? I really believe it is, because it trains you to use different shapes to play the same chord. It covers a lot more real estate on the neck, and it's just going to give you a better understanding of the root notes and positions what you can play these chords. So try this with different major chords. I'll have a PDF available for free on the site that you can check out, where we use some different examples of this and check out some different chords going through the CAGED system. Thank you so much for learning with me. My name's Kevin, and I'll see you next time.
Meet me down by the seaside, We can howl at the moon rise, watch as the tide strolls